So this video is going to be about Canto Nine from the Lusíads by Luís Vaz de Camões. Written in Portuguese, the epic poem chronicles the voyage of Vasco da Gama to India. By the time we get to Canto 9, there are 10 cantos in all. By the time we get to Canto 9, the Portuguese have already arrived in India and are on their way back. And as they return home, the goddess Venus arranges for them to rendezvous on a mythical island in the middle of the ocean for some sexual intercourse with some sea nymphs. So these are the lines that in part I want to talk about. This is from the text. I use the Landegg White translation. The Venus of Cyprus, meanwhile, ordained by the Eternal Father to guard the Portuguese and serve as their presiding genius, having so many years been their guide, wished now, as reward for their exploits and to compensate their sufferings, to provide, with every power in her employ, on the dreary seas an interval of joy, some restful harbor where her sailors could restore their spent humanity, some recompense for exertions such as snip the brief span of our lives. 3 towering peaks came into sight, thrusting upwards with a noble grace, and draped with grassy enamel. On that lovely, happy, delightful island, clear streams festooned with creepers cascaded from the summits, until with soft gurgles and little moans they bubbled gently over pearl-white stones. Between the hills, in a pleasant valley, the translucent rivers came together to form a lagoon, which stretched and brimmed with a beauty beyond imagining. A charming grove leaned over it, as if sprucing up its appearance, staring at its crystal-bright reflection, which captured every detail to perfection. Amidst this fresh luxuriance, the second Argonauts disembarked, where the lovely nymphs were strolling in the forest as if all unawares. Some were playing on sweet zithers, some on harps or harmonious flutes. Others, with gold bows, feigned they pursued creatures otherwise from those they wooed. What ravenous kisses filled the wood, what little moans and tender weeping, what sweet caresses, what virtuous anger yielding to happy, compliant laughter. What further happened that morn and noon, as Venus fanned the flames of love, better to relish than disparage it, but those begrudge who cannot manage it. So, the efforts of Venus in arranging this moment in Canto 9 are actually interesting from Camões, because there are a few steps that she takes that ought to make us wonder, but his views of love, whether or not this is a frustrated individual. Here are the steps that Venus goes through. First, she has Cupid shoot these nymphs with his arrows, and that part, all right, that's typical of classic literature. The next thing, look at these lines. But Cupid said he would need the help of a certain notorious go-between. All right. Since when does Cupid need help? I thought it was as simple as you take the arrow, you shoot the people, they fall in love. But no, not this, not in the Lusíads. Cupid said he would need the help of a certain notorious go-between. This was the giant goddess Fame. Hot-blooded, boasting, lying, truthful. So the giant goddess Fame is going to have to help Cupid. And this is what Fame does. To broadcast from her blaring trumpet her acclamation of the mariners, more than any she had extolled before. Re-echoing, Fame penetrated to the deepest caverns of the ocean. She spoke the truth, and so it was received, credulity helping her to be believed. So Cupid's arrows aren't enough. What is Camões saying? What he seems to be suggesting is that in the event that only Cupid had been employed and not Fame, that the nymphs would have been in love with the Portuguese and yet still denied them. They would have said, yeah, sure, I'm in love with you because I've been shot by Cupid, but I've never heard of you, so no dice. Is that kind of what he's saying? And then there's another interesting sign. So he starts to shoot them. Cruel Cupid fired one by one his shafts. The sea hummed with the arrows. Some went straight through the turbulent waves, others curved to their mark. The nymphs capitulated, ardent sighs issuing from their innermost hearts. Each was, I like this line, each was conquered before she saw her man, for fame can do as much as seeing can. That's just kind of a comment on human nature, I think. The next thing, though, is that Venus has to move this island around in order to get them to stop at it. The lovely verdant island hovered as Venus wafted it over the waves to where the ships were to be seen, for to prevent their sailing past without making port as she desired. Wherever they went, she kept it full in view, shifting it as she had the power to do. Do you know what I think is funny about that? It's Luís Vaz de Camões. If we can picture the moment he conceived of this, he must have in his head thought, you know what? Even if Venus pulled all this, she had Fame broadcast and Cupid shoot. Even so, in reality as I know it, Luís Vaz de Camões might have thought, those assholes would have sailed right past that fucking place. That kind of tells you how he thinks about how fortune frowns on love. All of these steps that Venus took, this is, in this poet's mind, this is what it takes to get laid. This is what has to happen. Fate has to be so aligned. And this specific sailor, this mariner named Leonard, his story is even more interesting. That's the part that he chooses to tell in detail. One of the mariners is particularly disfavored by fortune in his pursuit of love, and that's what Luís Vaz de Camões focuses on. The other sailors track down their nymphs easy enough, but listen to what Leonard has to go through. First of all, the poet calls him a person whom love had dealt not just one rebuff, but constant mishaps and reversals, right? And just his luck, he gets matched up with the prudest of all of these nymphs, Ephyre, beauty's paragon, who sought to bestow more dearly than the others what nature gave us to be given. See, get these little lines that tell you something about how this guy thinks. What nature gave us to be given. Tired already of the chase, he cried, "O beauty, too lovely to be cruel. The victory is yours in what you stole, but take my body now and you have my soul." So he he goes into this, let's see, it's like 4 or 5 stanzas. He unloads on her his woeful tale, and eventually she does succumb. But what this poet has chosen to show us is an anecdote in which the despairing, forlorn lover's journey can be so beset with obstacles that it can continue even on to the island of love with the help of both fame and divine intervention. Even with the help of fame and divine intervention, the forlorn journey of the hopeless lover can persist for a little longer, even under those circumstances. And then finally he does prevail. I detect a certain kind of romantic chauvinism from Camões in these moments, as certain an abstract distaste for the fickle taste of material women, prepared to rebuff the romantic overtures of the genuine lover in favor of the accoutrements of luxury and the prodigality of rumor, that can form in an abstract sense in the mind of the romantic poet. But it seems like a false one to me. I detect a poet that could put down his pen and fall hopelessly in love the moment after he has depicted a vision of such cynicism. That's what I detect in this guy. But to close out, dispensing with the romance of it and turning to slightly headier, more philosophical concepts. To return to stanzas 44 and 45, where fame is being discussed, there's something else just as interesting to be said about this. Remember those lines? He called fame hot-blooded, boasting, lying, truthful. That's how we discussed fame. And then let's look a little closer at these words. Fame. She spoke the truth, and so it was received. Credulity helping her to be believed. Credulity helping her to be believed. Just take a moment to consider what Camões is saying there. She spoke the truth, and so truth, was received. Credulity helping truth to be believed. Absent from this depiction is a comment upon the discernment of the nymphs. Do you notice this? The nymphs have not discerned fame's words. They have taken fame's words at face value. Credulity, and by credulity, I think what is meant is something like plausibility, being a mere catalyst and facilitator of their belief. Whenever the philosophical mind turns over any question, they're always up against the universe itself that would pose the question, why does anything even matter? And so the question, metaphysically being posed to us by this poet is, when we believe something without thinking about it, does it matter that what we believe is true when all we have done is accepted fame's word at face value? It's something to think about. And it is something to think about in today's day and age. We can each ask ourselves, what do I believe? What do I think is true? And ask yourself, have you taken fame at face value? So long as you found her broadcast plausible. Have you taken lying, hot-blooded, truthful, boasting fame at face value?